Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning. Hello, my management information student class. How are you? This is DrRosmaini Tasmin. I'm lecturing for chapter 6 titling Telecommunications, the Internet and Wireless Technology. In this chapter, I'm supposed to explain pertaining the hardware, software, telecommunication, and those related to chapter 6, how the internet works. Basically, the objective of this chapter is to make you understand and be able to identify the principal components of communication network and key networking technologies. For example, the server, the router, the terminals, the telecommunication technology, and so on. And I'm supposed to help you to identify the different types of networks available in ensuring the computer networking can function properly. I hope to describe to you also how the internet and the internet technology works, and in particularly to support business operation in the e-platform. I have to able to explain and describe to you the principal technologies and standard for the wireless networking, communication, and also internet access, and those related to the Rfid wireless sensor that exists around the computer networking system. If we take a look at the current computing and networking technology, well, we would say that information system and technology has been embedded quite dearly in our daily life. For example, if you take a look at the sports program, for example, a football match at EPL or at Malaysian League, we can see that technology has been embedded into the football games. For example, a game at EPL League between Liverpool and Manchester United. So there has been moments in which Mane receiving the ball to score the goal, and he scored the goal actually, but due to VAR technology, so they can review the motion of Mane, and the ball has actually hit Mane's hand, and as such the score by Mane has been nullified, so no goal for Liverpool. So that has been described as VAR, video assisted refereeing, in football match, in which again you see sensor camera technology has been applied in football match in order the refereeing to be fair and more transparent. That is one aspect of networking technology, communication band, and IT has been embedded into our daily life. As such, our daily life is very much related and very closely related to our broadband in the form of internet speeds. If you take a look at internet speed at the current level, it is in between transition from 4G towards 5G. What all this generation means to us as the internet users? Basically, 4Gs are still hovering around 400 megabits per second data transfer, like this. In equivalent of human movement, I would say 400 megabits per second is just like the speed of a man walking on the street. However, when we are moving to the 5G data speed, our data transfer is very much faster. That is almost as equivalent as a car moving on the road. So you imagine 4G at 400 megabit per second and 5G at 1 gigabit per second. It is the difference between a man walking on the street and a car moving on the road. So it's quite fast. Internet speeds also can be seen at the Wi-Fi hotspot communication. However, Wi-Fi has a radius reach capability of 200-meter distance, which is considered a small space area. Currently in Malaysia, we have internet speed provided by many providers. For example, Unify, which is based on fiber optic connection cabling. So Unify is operating at around 100 megabits per second. So that is a current speed of a service on internet delivered by Telecom Malaysia and Unify, just for general knowledge. Currently, 4G is still dominant in our internet connection. So here is the outlook of the 4G's antenna. In particular, you could see on top of a building, on top of a communication center, at shopping center. These are all 4G's related antenna, which is installed in many places of our daily life. Why then bother from 5G? Why then bother from moving from 4G to 5G speed communication? Why it is needed? Of course, the higher speed communication bandwidth is needed due to the public needs of the faster internet connection. For example, in future, you have heard about the autonomous driving, in which the car or a taxi can move or drive by itself from destination A to destination B. And when this kind of application like autonomous driving has been implemented, so it really need a very fast bandwidth of communication in terms of internet connection. So as such, at 5G, so we're gonna have around 20 gigabit per second. That is very fast speed of communication, because autonomous driving requires a lot of size, big size of communication in terms of broadband speed. And that is why we need 5Gs, because future application all requires faster internet communication. So internet speed is one thing of the communication technology today. However, without the networking, which is the connection between hardware to the networking lines and to the other users, that is quite useless. So if we see at networking and communication trend in Malaysia and the rest of the world, basically it is at the trend of convergence, in which many devices are being converged into a single devices. For example, your smartphone has been converging many devices. For example, a video recorder on top of the phone itself. Then you have many other application on your smartphone. For example, camera, Google Map, mapping, which is on the standalone device called navigation. So those are part of the convergence of many devices into a single, I would say, equipment. For example, smartphone. On top of the convergence, we need to have a, I would say, fast broadband communication. Broadband communication, for example, in Malaysia, our average speed about last year, reported by the Sun, it is about 7 megabits per second. This was about last year. However, if we compare the broadband communication speed in our neighboring country, which is Singapore, its broadband high speed is at 55 megabit per second. So that is 6 times faster in comparison to broadband communication speed in Malaysia. So broadband wireless, that is another key component for networking and technology, that we need to have this wireless communication so that it can perform a more portable services. Telecommunication and networking technology depends very much upon computer network. Computer network is basically a network of computer terminals in which connected together and being linked by normally a server. And this server performs function as a job scheduler router for each of the computer to communicate between each other. So within the computer network, there are many components that making it work. For example, you need to have the client and server computers. This is basically client and this basically server's computer. The network interfacing cards in between one server and one terminal. They have cards. The connecting medium, the operating system, the hub, switches, routers, and so on. And it must be also supported by software to define the networking, for example, like Novell and Microsoft networking and so on. These are a typical construct or system architecture for a simple computer network. Let's take a look on its basic constructs. So computer network start with, well, let's see, this is the personal computer user, and this is the NIC, the network identification card, and this standalone computer will be communicating with the switch, right? And this switch will also connecting to other terminal user, for example, this second PC. And all these switches are basically control the switching turn between personal computer number 1 and personal computer number 2, switching in the form of which terminal can communicate first with the server after this guy, and then they switch to this guy, this personal computer communication, and they are basically taking turn to switch to server. And this server also has switches in order to deliver the request by the users to be connected to router. And a router is the main device which is connecting to the external network for internet out there, which is the global networks of computers. So router serves like a traffic light in which the job request will be sent to the bigger network communication out there, whether to stop, to get ready, or to go to fulfill the request by the users. This is another typical construct for network in large company, because just now this is for a single computer network, like me connecting to UTHM and connecting to the bigger world of internet. However, in the big companies, for example, like Sony, for example, like Petronas, they have very much larger networks in terms of their own company internally. So for example, one big company like Petronas, in their headquarters, they have hundreds of LANs or local area network like this. And that LAN itself is actually a network of many computers. And this network of many computers connected to the other network of many computers. And as such, it is basically a network of a large computer network. For example, network at procurement, a local area network computer is connected to local area network in the engineering department. So, and this local area network and engineering department is connecting to the other local area network at perhaps human resource. So as such, all of these departments have their own LANs, and all these department LANs are connected to each other. So it forms as networks in a large company like Petronas. And within the network of large companies, normally they have the very powerful servers to host the website, the corporate intranet, or Petronas connecting to other Petronas. For example, Petronas Malaysia connecting to Petronas, for example, Sudan. So that is a corporate extranet. And this network and server serve as a back-end system to host all the communication needed by Petronas. And on top of that, normally large companies, they have the mobile local area network, because engineers, managers are moving around, so they need to have this mobile local area network. And big companies normally have meeting based on video conferencing. So between Petronas Malaysia and Petronas, for example, Sudan, Petronas Vietnam. So they may have meeting by using merely video conferencing. And this network also hosts a very big telephone network, including wireless cell phones. If we take a look on the corporate network infrastructure, so these are their system architecture. For example, at Petronas, normally we start as server here. These are the main server hosting perhaps website, intranet, and extranet connection. So the three servers, 1, 2, and 3. And these servers are connected to their main internet service provider. For example, Celcom, DG, and Maxis. So those are category for internet service provider, and this internet service provider is linking all the wireless local area network, perhaps by Petronas engineers in the field, and these are connected to their headquarters as a corporate wired local area network. And normally it is at the main office or headquarters. And all these portable and local area network are connected by ISP, internet service provider, to the internet itself, which is the networks of computer networks. And this internet are connecting to other wireless ISP provider to be connected to other Petronas branches, for example, internationally. And all this also supported by telephone system, be it cell phone or smart devices, and all these are bounded together by this ISP to form the corporate network infrastructure for the whole Petronas. What are the key digital networking technology must be available to ensure telecommunication and networking in current to this business? Well, the key one of the first component is the client-server computing environment, in which one server are serving many users in the form of terminal PCs, smartphone, or perhaps personal computer at the headquarters or at the design center, for example. So client is requesting work or requesting computing task to the server, and the server is distributing the job to the rest of the network, be it in the headquarters or those computers that need support in the field. So this is what they call distributed computing model, in which computing power is being distributed to other resources in order that the server is not that fully overloaded. And this has many architecture system, some of them in the form of centralized mainframe computing, some of them are on the smaller scale of server, some of them are on the independent server that is existing in the remote. So the internet itself actually the largest implementation of a client-server computing, because the internet has been known as a network of computer networks. how does this telecommunication technology work in between terminal, server, and the other user at the other end of the world? So they employ this packet switching technology. Packet switching technology is a method to slice the messages into small parcels. So the big message is actually sliced down or broken down into pieces and sent along the communication line, and then assembled back to the receiver as the whole message as it was sent by the sender. So this is the illustration of how the packet technology works. For example, it starts here. So this is the original message that we send. For example, it is a picture with a text. So it will be broken down into three sections like this. So this one message broken down to three pieces. They are all being sent independently over the internet, over the local area network, or over the telecommunication channel, and sent to the receiver here. So each packet, packet 1 and packet 2 and packet 3, they have their own message number and destination to be sent to the receiver. When the receiver receives at the end of the world to read the message in the form of picture and text, so the receiver computer will assemble back the message in the form of packet 1, packet 2, packet 3, and it will match in the same shape it is being sent by the sender here. So in such a way that only the receiver can receive the full message. And this technology has been proposed by Paul Baran. He is the pioneer that developed packet technology to be sent from sender to receiver as it is being shown here. That is what they call packet technology or packet switching. Another key component in telecommunication and networking technology, they call it as a TCP/IP protocol and its connectivity. TCP means Transmission Control Protocol. IP means Internet Protocol. So this just like a controller or gateway to send your message, communication between sender and receiver. So do you notice that when you make connection to a computer, for example, like in the library, and you connect it to the wall, and each wall socket for local area network, it has this kind of number. For example, I just jot down here 183.12.1894.11. These are actually the TCP number to identify a unique location of which internet port that you are connected with, like in the library or in those other places. So this is to identify who is who for traceability in communication. So it involves many layers. For example, application layer, transport layer, internet layer, and network interfacing layer. So for example, this is your computer, and you want to connect to your friends out there in the overseas. So you send your message. There is a firewall checking your messages and then send over internet. And by having this TCP IP address number, only then your friend can receive your message and read your message. This is the illustration for the two computers. For example, computer A and computer B, you and your friend. And this is your notebook, and this is perhaps your friend's PC somewhere there in overseas. So in order to send email for like Gmail from your computer So your mail need to use certain application or software, and then your email will be transported by certain communication service provider, brought it over the internet, and go to NIC, network interfacing card, and your network interfacing card of your notebook will be communicating with network interfacing card of your friend's personal computer here at the other part of the world. And your message will go through internet, being transported, and only application at your friends like Gmail will read actual email that you send from your notebook here, so that your friend can read the full document of Gmail that's sent by you. So this is how it works at the sender end, and this is at the receiver end as computer B. So that is their transmission control protocol based on TCP/IP reference model. Another part which are essential for communication networks are basically signal. We have to understand signals, digitals versus analog signal, right? So in order to understand this, later I will explain what does it mean by modem and types of network available. For example, local area network, Ethernet-based client-server or peer-to-peer, WANs, wide area networks, metropolitan campus area network. There are many types of local area network, but most famously people use LANs, local area network. Okay, just now I explained to you, I mentioned about modems. So a modem is a device to convert from digital signal to the analog signal, and then convert back to digital signal. Why we need to have this conversion? Because modem is equipment to modulate and demodulate signal. In the current internet communication technology or communication technology that we have, your computer, for example here on the left, is basically a digital signal device. So it communicates digitally. Digitally means that the signal is only ones and zeros. It is high current or low current. It is just 1 zeros and 1 zeros. However, when your notebook communicate with your friend's notebook, normally this kind of telecommunication will go to telecommunication cable, like those on the pole next to the road. These are basically telecommunication cable which is based on copper wire. So when this your communication signal goes to this cable, it is communicating from digital signal to analog signal at this communication cable on the telecommunication pole. So in that on that communication cable, it is working in the analog signal. So when your signal goes to your friend's notebook, right? Again, from this telecommunication pole cable, the signal will be convert to the digital signal, so that your computer can read at the end the message that you send. So that's why you need the modem or modulator or demodulator equipment, because in the mode of communication between you and your friends, there are medium in which it works based on analog system, normally like this copper cabling communication cable at the communication pole next to the road. So what else we need to ensure the communication networks is working properly? So we need to have transmission media or cable, right, in the form of many types. For example, twisted pair wire, coaxial cable. For example, like this is coaxial cable, right, at the back of your television, at the back of your connecting your antenna, or twisted pair wire like this on top right side. Fiber optics cable, it's like this on the bottom right side, right? It is a single big cable. Inside there are many fibers bound all together. And on top of cable, you have also the wireless transmission media and devices. For example, those using smartphone that is based on cellular system, and those that communicate using satellites like astro broadcasting, they use satellite. And this is supported by the transmission speed. And transmission speed normally being measured by bits per second, or short form BPS, and it is measured in hertz, which is how many frequency per second, and that's what they call bandwidth on the overall transmission speed. And the other key technology that is supporting the telecommunication and network is basically the internet itself. Well, as you are aware, the internet is actually a network of computer networks, which is many networks out there that is making up the internet. So the internet works with internet service provider. Normally, each country has their own internet service company, and these are called ISP. And internet connection is controlled by the ISP of each country. And as I said earlier, at current speed of 400 megabit per second, it is just as internet speed of human walking on the road. At 1 gigabit per second, it is just like the speed of car moving on the road. So if it is at 4Gs, it is around this maximum 1 gigabit per second. If it is at 5Gs, the speed of internet is moving at 10 gigabit per second. On top of the internet itself, so we need to have the construct of the internet system architecture, and they call it internet addressing or IP addresses in the form of this number, as I explained to you. At each local area network port connection, there are IP addresses number, normally in this form of numbers, dot, and numbers. And for internet to work, they have to have this domain name system in order to address proper location or destination of the internet receiver. For example, if the domain name for our university, UTHM, so the address is called www.uthm.edu.my. So all internet connection in the domain name system around the world have the same domain name system according to relating to their country. Like if it is .my, it is Malaysia. If it is .sg, it is Singapore. If it is .cn, it is China. If there is no dot at the end of this address, it means United States. And this addressing domain name system are all basically managed and controlled, or sort of being organized, administered by WWW. It is a World Wide Web Consortium, and it is headquartered in the USA. How does the domain name system work? Well, basically it follows certain structure. For example, the dot, it means the internet root domain. Every dot signifies domain. And after the dot, if it is edu, it is education. COM means commercial or business. GOV means government. ORG means organization. NET means network. And after that, you're going to have basically the second level domain. It is by Google and the company. Either it is a Congress or maybe it is a group. So these are second level domain. And of that company, and under that company, they have departments normally. For example, Google sales or Google marketing. So these are the third level domain name hosts. and only then it can be received by the server or a server to process your request for communication. Well, one quite a good topic emerged by this domain name system. People may make it a mechanism how to make money or how to sell domain name system, right? So domain name system works based on who requests for register first, right? If you request to register first, the name, for example, www.rosmainitasmin.com.my, so you own that domain name. No other Rosmaini Tasmin will have the rights to use that domain because you register first. So if another Rosmaini Tasmin requests for this domain name, right? So you have you can sell that name to the other Rosmaini Tasmin. Perhaps there are two Rosmaini Tasmin here in the world. So who register first? And upon registration, of course, you need to pay some amount of money because you need to capture the right of the names. And the next request for the same name is not able to get that name except given permission by the first registrant, and that first registrant is willing to sell the name to the other user that wanting the same name. So in that way, actually, you can make money. Perhaps you registering the name with a lower cost, and because the second user wanting to use the same name, so you can sell to them. How does the internet network architecture works? Well, basically, it all are connected or all are linked towards a backbone. Backbone is normally linking internet cabling, linking between continental to another continental. For example, on your top left, there is a continental for US, and there is a continental of Europe here. So these two continental are connected by backbone. So from the backbone, it is connected to the regional, for example, country, UK, Germany, France. So that is what they call MAE, regional hubs, normally related to country. And within this country, then they connected to a network of regional hosts. And from this the regional host, you can connect to organization, for example, to New York University Education, or you can connect to local internet service provider, for example, telecommunication company, and only then your home could have the internet access, and your university campus network can have internet access to the backbone and to the rest part of the world for internet communication. Well, this sounds familiar, internet services, because you have been using it quite a lot. Email, chatting, World Wide Web. So these are very general knowledge and for your understanding. Basically, you are here as a client. So you're using your PC terminal, notebook, and smartphone. You get connected to the internet, and the internet will link you to the server. Say this server belongs to PTM Center, IT Center, UTHM. And of course, inside the web, inside the server web, there are websites for UTHM, and of course the cloud platform for email, for example, Zimbra or Gmail transfer email protocol. The domain name that UTHM registered to, for example, www.uthm.edu.my, protocol of file transferring between UTHM server to the outside world, and also network transfer protocol. So all these are housed within the UTHM server. Within the server contains, of course, the web pages and also the email files kept within the server storage area. The server interact with application server, for example, software like SMAP Online, student Sistem Maklumat Akademik Pelajar. So that is considered under application. So it is a software to host the database of your academic performance and credential, and it is kept inside the database MySQL, for example. So within the database server, it is kept all your records for your reference traceability, for graduation purposes and so on. So these are the mechanism for client server computing basing on the internet and network. The global internet is also made more useful by having the voice or video over IP, which is VoIP. So you could use application like Skype, Facebook Cam, and many other applications, so that you could communicate with your friends by using this VoIP protocol. How does the VoIP works in the internet platform setting? Well, this is basically a description of a diagram communicating, say, user as you and with your friends, say, in Japan. So say you are using your Facebook, you are asking his health back there in Japan. So you type, how are you? How are you? This is a one sentence statement, will be broken down to 3 packets in the form of A, B, and C by your computer through their gateway. And this A, B, C will be sent through your broadband services over the internet and go to your friend's computer through its NIC, and he will read it. Before he can read your statement, how are you, over the internet, actually these 3 packet A, B, and C are scrambled or are sent, handled, and managed differently. Here is how, here is are, here is you. So after passing to the internet, upon arriving at the gateway, it will be arranged accordingly from BCA at the gateway, and passing the gateway, it will be arranged as ABC, so that you can read in your friend reading at his screen, how are you? So in return, he will surely write a reply. So he says, fine, thank you. Fine, thank you is actually one statement which will be broken down into 3 packets, X, Y, and Z. And he will send his message back through the gateway. And as such, this XYZ over the internet will be scrambled into 3 packets and will be sent to your gateway in the sequence like Y, Z, X. And upon passing the gateway, it will be reassembled back in the proper sequence as your friend sent you from Japan in the form of XYZ, so that you can read in your screen, fine, thank you. So this is how it works between data sending, scrambling, reassembling, and from between user, you and your friend at the other end. Under a more secure communication, they call it VPN, Virtual Private Network. Normally, VPN is being applied by big company. For example, like Sony or Siemens, they have their own VPN. So between Sony and Sony suppliers, they use their own VPN so that their commercial communication, like product ordering, pricing, shipment, can be more secure, linking between supplier to Sony, for example. So this is a more on commercial base, due to security and confidentiality of information between customer, companies, and also its supplier. So on the global internet platform, within the web perspective, there are many components that making the web works. For example, the basic language that web designer use to design the web or the website is they call HTML, Hypertext Markup Language. Within the hypertext markup language, web designer using language like Java, C++ in order to design their website. And in order for their website to communicate with the other website, they need to use this protocol, which is HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Because when you transfer information from one website to another website, there are schemes or there are procedures or rules that the website need to follow so that they can communicate with each other. Within the web, another component which is important making the web works, basically they call URL, Unified Resource Allocator. In other words, URL is the internet address of your website. For example, www.uthm.edu.my.com/ptm. So that is URL for IT center at UTHM. Other than that, there are many web servers serving the website in order for customer to get the information what they search for. So these are the servers that respond to your request over the internet based on your surfing request. On the global internet platform, other components that are key in making it work are, of course, search engine. Search engine are the software that helps you find what you are searching for. Well, of course, search engine have experienced evolution in the 1990s up to now, new millennium and 2020. So in the early days of search engine, the most famous search engine was called Netscape. So Netscape was famous for around 8 to 10 years since 1990s, then later taken over by Microsoft Explorer. And during that time, Explorer is competing with Yahoo. And after another 5 or 8 years, this Explorer and Yahoo becoming less prevalent or less famous and being taken over by Yahoo Chrome. Sorry, it's taken up by Google Chrome. So as such, nowadays, I would say predominantly we search mostly by using search engine like Google Chrome. Here is some statistics that being published inside your textbook that it claims that almost around 80% of search over the internet in this world is basically using Google. So this is basically a fact. The global internet works also primarily due to search based on social needs. For example, Facebook search, Instagram, Twitter. So the semantic search relating to social needs, basically when you type your Google dialog box here, something that you search for. So for example, you are searching for university in Malaysia. So they will come up with a respective search university that they will propose the phrases that is most relevant to you. So you just need to type and see what will be coming out from the optional suggested search phrases. So from there you may click what they are proposing, and this is what they call search by meaning or searching semantic search, which is anticipating for users to look what subject matter they want to find, and server will propose close phrases that is almost matching to your search. Well, basically, how does actually Google works? Okay, this figure 7-12 explain the mechanism of how Google works. Say, step 1, this is you as a user. You are searching queries for some information, for example, COVID-19. now is in the crisis. So your search will be sent to Google data center at their servers, and this server will distribute your request to search for the information on COVID-19 in Malaysia to their many parallelly distributed processor across the world. So whichever processor or computer are free to do the processing, so the data center server will assign to that computer to serve your request. So after finding the closest website that explain about COVID-19 in Malaysia, so the Google Chrome server will send the request for indexing. So this indexing is meant to rank based on page rank software. Page is name of the inventor that invent Google Chrome, which is Larry Page. So based on Larry Page software, they will rank based on the frequency of the words or the sentence you are searching for match to rank within the most frequent 10 website that is matching to your request. When they have arranged it from 1 to 10 and then 11 to 20, they will send those pages, normally in a page of 10 websites, to your screen. And from there, you may choose which one is the most relevant to your search. So this is how the mechanism it works. It is basically page on Larry Page rank software mechanism. Nowadays, web have evolutionized to Web 2.0 and Web 3.0. So the second stage for second generation web, basically it promotes or enable for people to do collaboration, sharing information like social media, and of course, facilitating online services like purchase. So the features should be interactive, in which the request must be entertained, and it is basically controlled by the user who are searching for information. So by that, they can generate mass content of user within the internet platform. So Web 2.0 services and tools, they also promote blogging, which is sharing of information, sharing of updates, like Blogsphere, like Wikipedia, social networking sites, so like Instagram. Those are Web 2.0 service category. However, nowadays, in this new millennium, Web 3.0 is basically moving on to meaningful web, or semantic web. Semantic web is basically promoting collaborative effort, which is promoting cooperation between users. So their main goal is basically, of course, to reduce human effort in searching for information. So for example, when you search, they are proposing for possible phrases that is perhaps quite close to the intention of your real search. And semantic web is basically proactive web, in which they could move ahead of predicting what you need. And Web 3.0 is also being supported, or I think being assisted by the other things of web. For example, IoT, Internet of Things, in which people could monitor their homes from their workplaces, big data analysis, in which create more meaning from the big data, which is already hosted by the server, robotics, and many other applications that is basing on internet. So Web 3.0 also strongly promote, as I said earlier, collaboration, in which cloud computing platform is more strengthened. For example, Gmail, Google Classroom, and they are also promoting mobile computing, in which people are nowadays moving from places to places, and at the same time they search for information. So nowadays we are at the level of Web 3.0, which is semantic web. In other words, web that are predicting what your needs and they are giving you suggestion. Of course, nowadays, internet cannot work without the telecommunication system support. Either it is for cellular phone, and there are few standards which is now implemented under telecommunication, for example, CDMA, GSM, third generation network, which is the previous generation. Nowadays, we are pretty much in between using 4Gs and into transition into the next generation of broadband internet communication. For example, under 4G speed of communication network, so 4G maximum speed of communication is about 100 megabit per second, and it is very much suitable for like YouTubing, internet kind of VoIP, like Facebook, Cam, Skype. However, in future, we need faster than that because it start to apply for example, autonomous driving. So in which the car is consistently communicating through the internet with the server. So we need higher bandwidth. For example, at 5G, our communication speed is average around 20 gigabit per second. 20 gigabit per second means 20 multiplied by 10 to the power of 12 bit per second. Like 4G speed is 100 megabit per second. Mega means times 6 or million. In other words, 100 times 10 to the power of 6 bit per second. However, here on the Giga platform, it is multiplied by 10 to the power of 12. So that's the difference between fourth generation and fifth generation. And of course, in future, we need a faster and much faster speed communication due to our own daily needs. On wireless revolution, we have few platforms to support wireless computer communication, because if you go to the McDonald's and you use their Wi-Fi, obviously you are using this Wi-Fi standard, 802.11 standard. So this is basically a worldwide standard that is applicable for all wireless communication platform. So Bluetooth is basically another system based on wireless. However, it has a smaller radius of communication, like around 10 meter area of communication capability. How does Bluetooth work? Well, Bluetooth actually solves problems of cabling between devices. For example, between printer and your notebook, or printer from smartphone, right? So these are basically wireless technology that solve short distance cabling problem. How does 802.11 system wireless local area network work? So basically, in the central here, if it is based on local area network, there is a trunking line, or for example, fiber line normally, fiber cable. And fiber cable is the central trunking communication between your server and also your hotspot, between a router and inside your office internal local area network to the internet. So these are basically the system that connected all your local area network devices towards the router and later go to the internet. And of course, from the internet, you will get connected to many other networks of computer networks for communication, for two-way communication. How does wireless computer network works? Well, again, as I highlighted earlier, it works because of the communication system by Wi-Fi, right? The Wi-Fi is slightly having weaker security features because it is easier to breach security at Wi-Fi platform. Another wireless computer network, they name it as WiMAX. WiMAX is normally at public places, for example, at the park or at the train station. So normally you can see this kind of transmitter antenna nearby the public park. Then this is basically users at public places. So they use platform for WiMAX, which is wider public access as long as range of around 31 miles. This should be around in the biggest communication area in comparison to Wi-Fi. Another thing, another aspect of a wireless platform in terms of devices that support them is RFID, radio frequency identification device. It could be in the form like this tag, right? Identification tag for individuals. Say if you are working at a very large space like shipyard or big spaces like, for example, data center. So you may need this RFID to identify your position, your location, so for security purposes. For example, if you visit a clothing store, those expensive clothing, normally they attach with RFID for security purposes. And of course, they have readers to detect this RFID tag, right? So that is the application for RFID in the form of, I would say, embedded device to the inventory that they want to monitor. This is more relevant to passive RFID, in which passive is considered short range, it is short distance, for example, like 5 meters or 10 meters. So it is commonly used at, say, in Malaysia at class automated toll collection, in which you have your own smart tag reader here, and under the plaza toll there is a reader to detect your balance of money inside your smart tag, and they will deduct the collection of payment charge through communication between your tag and read by the reader, and they access the server, they cap your amount for money kept into your account, and they deduct accordingly to the travel distance that you have gone through in the plus highway. So that is how basically RFID works. Nowadays, based on smart cities environment, cities could monitor their, for example, environment parameter like pollution in the air, like movement of people, building sensor. They can install wireless sensor network, they call it WSN, and these all sensors are basically connected to server to monitor certain situational traffic in the city, for example, particles in the air, congestion in particular area. So these are devices embedded into the wireless sensor network, normally installed within the building or within the busy road or within the municipal area to monitor public places. So this again, another part of wireless communication platform. How does the wireless sensor work? Basically, it is a network by itself. It has a server, and perhaps this server hosted by the municipalities, authority, and they get connected to the traffic light, get connected to, say, particles, environment monitoring for air pollution. They monitor public places, for example, train station. All are this link and connected to the server and connected to the internet, of course, and later they could monitor from their headquarters for management purposes. I think that's about it for my lecture of Chapter 6 for Management Information System this week. Thank you for your attention. Here we all dismiss. Thank you again.